Greetings, fellow carbon-based bipeds. I am Scott Rose, and you are watching Explosions and Stuff. Today, I'll be reviewing the 2014 film The Outsider, starring Craig Fairbrass, James Caan, Shannon Elizabeth, and Johnny Messner. An overview of the movie? Career mercenary Lex Walker comes to Los Angeles because he has been told that his daughter has been killed. However, when he discovers the girl in the morgue is in fact not his daughter, he goes on a mission to find her. In the process, he manages to step on the wrong toes and make some powerful enemies who want him and his daughter dead. The pros of this movie? Well, first of all, this movie was very well acted. I mean, let's just take for consideration, for one, Johnny Messner. Now, he was in a movie I reviewed a couple weeks ago, and he was in this one too. I didn't plan that. I didn't know he was in this movie when I first watched it, but oh well, he's in this one too. Anyway, the character he played in the movie I reviewed the other day, and the character he played in this movie, completely different. I could not tell that they were the same actor. I couldn't tell because they looked different, they acted different, the tone of voice was different, the way they carried themselves was different. Everything about them was different. He did an amazing job. Also, Craig Fairbrass did a great job. I mean, he was the main hero. He was the main badass guy. He did a great job of embodying that badass character and becoming that person. And I was genuinely afraid of him. I was like, wow, this guy could really mess some stuff up if he needed to. He could really kick my ass. Also, James Caan did an amazing job. He was the primary villain in this. And he also did something that I have never seen a main villain do in a movie. They established him as the main villain very well, but they did it in an interesting way. They did the typical, oh, you're one of my henchmen, you messed up, so I'm going to kill you first. Except what they did in this one was before he shot the guy, he just started punching him and beating the crap out of him. James Caan beat the crap out of this guy with his bare hands first, which is something I've never seen before in a movie, aside from like a martial arts movie where the main villain is like some massive martial arts master. In this one, he's just like some crime kingpin type guy. And I've never seen that kind of reaction from a main villain that was that kind of character. I loved it. The fight scenes in this movie were just gritty and hard-hitting, and they weren't pretty and flashy, and it was worried about being effective, not about looking cool. And as a result, they looked cool because they focused on just gritty, hard-hitting fight scenes. Lots of elbows to the face and knee shots, which will do a lot of damage because they're really hard bones. I loved those type of fight scenes in this. Also, the soundtrack in this movie just fit it beautifully. I loved it. There were times where the characters didn't even need to talk. The way they acted and the way they carried themselves, combined with the background music, just said everything that needed to be said. The characters didn't need to speak. They didn't need to have any lines. Everything came across with how they carried themselves, how they acted physically, and the music. It was beautiful. The music just enhanced every scene. It didn't take away from anything, but it also wasn't over the top. It was perfect. I loved it. The cons of this movie? Well, first of all, the story in this movie was fairly predictable. It was the typical, my daughter's missing, I don't know where she is, I'm gonna get her back because cops can't do their jobs. That was the whole movie. Just this guy who thought he was better at getting his daughter back than the cops were because he wasn't held back by the rules of the law. That was like the majority of the movie was that. And then after that it became, okay, the bad guy has this information, let's get it from the bad guy so we can put him in jail. That way he doesn't kill my daughter. That was the movie after that. Really predictable. I will admit, though, one prediction I made was completely wrong, and that kind of surprised me a good bit, but, you know, I'm not going to say what the prediction was, because I don't want to give out spoilers or anything, but I will admit that my prediction in that was wrong. Not perfect. Moving on. This movie had so many establishing shots, like just a ridiculous number of establishing shots. Like they just felt they couldn't be too established or anything like that, or you can never be established enough. It was almost like these establishing shots were just put in there to buy time, just to pad the movie, so it could be a feature film. I don't know, but it was just poorly done, and a lot of these establishing shots were poorly shot. I mean, there were some scenes where it was like this guy driving down a road, but the buildings and the streetlights looked like it was just computer generated. I don't know if they were, I don't know if they weren't, but they looked like they could have been, and that's not something you want in your movie. Also, they used a lot of aerial establishing shots, but they had them for so long. It was like they filmed them with a drone, and then the battery died in the drone, so they had to bring it down and recharge it, and then send it back up, and then recharge it again, and then send it back up. And you could tell where the cuts were, because it'd be sliding along, and then it'd jump, and then it'd slide along, and then jump again. I mean, you could see the cuts in this thing. That's not a good job of editing. It's supposed to be a lot smoother than that. Even I know this, and I'm not very good at editing. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I'm not an expert at editing. Anyway, they really needed, and they reused these establishing shots constantly. I mean, really? Use them once, move on, go ahead. Anywhere. Another thing that really bothered me about this movie was they just had lens flares out the wazoo. If there was a light, there was a lens flare. It just poofed out like a starburst. It was almost like they intentionally did it. Like they digitally enhanced them or something. I don't know. It didn't make any sense. It looked bad, and it was annoying. One thing that it bothered me, but it may not bother a lot of people, was, the main character. He's like this mercenary with military training, and he's infiltrating this building, and he's got a disguise, which consists of a hat. That's his entire disguise. Great one. It's kind of like the Clark Kent disguise. Anyway, so he goes in, and as soon as he gets in the building, he takes his hat off, throws it on the ground, and moves on. Well, guess what? He gets found out. People find him. Why? Because they found the damn hat. If he didn't throw the hat on the ground, nobody would have known he was there, and the big fight scene at the end wouldn't have happened. I understand that they had to have that big fight scene because, it's a movie, and it had to happen, and plot and stuff. But realistically speaking, if he hadn't thrown that hat on the ground, he would have gotten away clean. They never would have known he was there. And it just would have been so much simpler. And that was the more logical and realistic thing to do. The best action scene of the movie? That would have to be the final showdown battle between Lex Walker, and the head of the main bad guy's security. And they're just going at it, fighting elbows and punches and kicks and stuff. At one point, they fall off a balcony off of 2 stories and fall into a swimming pool, and they continue fighting underwater in the swimming pool. I mean, yes, this fight scene wasn't perfect. I mean, there was like a motion sick inducing amount of shaky cam. Like, I actually felt nauseous because of all the shaky cam. But the rest of the fight scene was just so good that I was able to look past that and still enjoy the fight scene for how great and hard-hitting and gritty it was. My overall thoughts on the movie? I enjoyed the movie. I give it 1 thumb up. I mean, let's be honest here. This isn't a cinematic masterpiece or anything. And a good number of the issues with this movie are technical issues. Things like all the lens flares, the ridiculous use of establishing shots, and the motion sickness inducing shaky cam in that final epic battle scene. But despite all of those flaws, this is still an entertaining movie, and it's good for what it is. If you want good technical cinematography, then avoid this movie. But if you want to just sit back, relax, and be entertained, I think The Outsider is an excellent choice. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like it and subscribe to my channel for new action movie reviews posted every week. Also, if you have any recommendations for movies you would like me to review in the future, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you and have a nice day.